All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I've talked about it before. We talked about it a little bit during FF7 Remake, and you don't see it too much in Remake because I think it's just more of a streamlined experience, much tighter corridors, so a more linear experience, which is not a bad thing. Because the Midgar section, there's not really a ton of wiggle room necessarily, even though they did add the whole section with Jesse's mom and all that stuff, and visiting the top plate and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. I don't like this. I've talked about it before, and it feels like we talk about this in every game that is from like 2017 and onwards. The easiest solution is just have a setting in the game where you go into the options and you just have extras. And yellow paint would be flagged under extras. Now, I have heard people make the argument that yellow paint or some sort of equivalent to it functions as an interactable or a point of interaction because graphics are so highly detailed and stuff nowadays that sometimes it's hard to tell where your interaction points are. And sure, that argument I understand. You also had similar, or at least a similar type of setting in PS1 FF7 of, hey, this is where, like, this specific spot is where you would hit a transition screen from this screen to the next screen. But in these cases, it's modern graphics. Sure, you can make the argument that it's like it would be a little bit hard to tell specifically where you're supposed to interact with. However, you could always make the wall texture a little bit different. You could have Sephiroth literally start climbing the wall. And then, or you just have this. Or like some interactable thing on the map, or on like the mini-map that would tell you that, hey, this is a ladder spot. Or just, again, I much prefer God rays or light sources to be a clearer point of interaction and of a directional thing of where to go. We also had this issue in Ninja Gaiden 4, a game that is extremely linear, as all character action games are, with yellow paint. I don't understand why. And also, looking at you, DSP, you got lost in the first level. I saw those clips. Stop ruining our video games. DSP, just admit that you're bad and at least get better at e-begging. Because he's not even good at that. I'm not good at it. Yellow paint, let's see. Let's see what you are saying, Mr. and Mrs. members of Chata. Yellow paint hate. It needs to be green and look like some kind of brush in the background. Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, because like moss, because there's obviously like the waterfall over here, but even though it's all rocky and stuff like that, sure. Like, you could easily make an argument, yeah, there's just moss. Or just something that looks more natural than some jackass coming by from Home Depot with some yellow paint, just slapping that all over the rocks. And Mr. Demo says, many ways to solve things like this. Yellow paint feels very lazy and out of place when it's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, exactly. Again, there's fun ways to do it. Uncharted does this as well. However, they do it with like yellow caution tape that is kind of like floating in the wind. And it's just generally like, hey, like, look here. That one I don't mind because depending on the situation that it's in, it feels natural. That like there would be caution tape or something like that. This is what people don't like. This is what makes a lot of modern games look like they are made for people that are stupid. Because yes, a lot of people are stupid, myself included. I am a VTuber. I have a dent in my brain, and my brain is smooth. And yet even I could figure out some solutions to this. I still say you should just have a setting, like in extras or something like that. It's just yellow paint off. And then guess what? The problem is done. And you could have it off by default, or when you start up a new save file, it's like, hey, go through these extra settings for accessibility or something like that. And then you could just have that. And then I feel like a lot of people wouldn't bitch necessarily because it's right there. If you want to turn it off, it's there. Should it be there at all? Maybe. Yes, no. I don't know. If it's there for people that want it, if it's there for people that don't want it. People don't have the patience to explore anymore. I love that little kitty. Even though, yes, we use that emote for a couple of things. I like to look at it. It's cute with his mustache. I love 7TV. Everybody should download 7TV or get it for your browser. A lovely little browser extension. But yeah, this is the main problem. And I think even like the biggest haters of yellow paint and a lot of, and I'm putting air quotes here, modern game design, just make it fit in with the environment. Have it be green or just like a natural looking thing of moss or plant life, fauna, something. Fauna or flora, something. Just don't have it be like somebody came here from Home Depot and spray painted. Yes, I agree ultimately that this looks lazy. It also speaks to you made a bad environment. Your design and environmental and areas and cutscene framing are poor. That you didn't design the level and parts of the environment to be very clear that this was interactable. And again, here we can take a look at this. Now, we are playing on the base PS5 version, for whatever that's worth, and we have the graphics set to sharp, not the 4K stuff. Okay, we can look at this rock texture. Okay, this rock texture looks pretty good. Slowly go across here. So, okay, this is more flattened out, because clearly there was some work done on the wall, probably to have this, like, structural framing for the reactor. Smooth. Oh, hey, these rock textures look like they are sticking out. Dyslexia, why do you hate you? Why does it hate you? So, it's all good, Mr. Simp. There's nothing wrong with dyslexia. So it's like, okay, these rocks are like a little bit more textured. There's a little bit more going on with this part of the model than everywhere else. Because even here, you can see that it's like a little bit more flat. It's not quite as rendered. I mean, obviously, we're not going to go jumping back in. That water looks nasty. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, why do you feel the need to do it? With yellow. And here's the thing. I get it. Yellow. It's a very bright color. It stands out in the environment. Almost no matter what environment it's in, it stands out. That, hey, this is interactable. Just change the color. Add a slight bit more texture work to make it look like there's something here. And there's a lot of this in FF7 Rebirth. So, part 2. I just don't know what we're doing. It's just so strange to me. And I don't know if this is a thing of, again, accessibility, quote-unquote, lazy game design, something that somebody was doing in QA, either their QA testers were all Phil, for instance, and they just sat here running around in a circle for like 20 hours. Because DSP is just bad at video games and makes all of that our problem for some godforsaken reason. Which, yes, for those that are in the future YouTube comments, for God of War Ragnarok, there was a specific GDC talk from Santa Monica Studios where they actually used some of his stream clips of him being lost and not understanding a puzzle. So if you're curious why the game tells you the solution or heavily points you to the solution like 10 seconds into figuring out the puzzle before you can even look at what all of your puzzle pieces are, that's why. Blame DSP. I don't have anything towards the guy negative wise. I just realized that he is he's a moron. Now, whether or not he's playing it up for money as a bit, and it's just become so insane as a bit, I don't know. Because, I mean, I get it, man. You got to get paid at the end of the day. Right, let's check back on chat, though. Why would an employee from the reactor even mark this stuff up with paint in universe? We get yellow paint because DSP is dent. Again, the man got lost in a linear straight line of a level in Ninja Gaiden 4. Which, otherwise, aside from, like, the yellow paint and stuff like that, I thought that was a great first level. On, like, the cliffside and stuff like that. It's for character action game standards, yeah, that level was pretty damn good. I liked it a lot. I like Ninja Gaiden 4 a lot, yeah. Even if parts of it are heavily reused assets and stuff like that, I still think it was a pretty solid, like, character action game. It was one of the few, like, wins that Platinum has had in many, many years. Supposed to use a guy who has to find this toilet. I would hope he doesn't have to do that. But then again, when the guy didn't even know how to open Pokemon packs or something like that a while back, I heard he was trying to get in on the Pokemon game. I feel bad. But anyways, back to the main argument. As funny as it is to mess with laugh at DSP. I don't hate yellow paint necessarily. I just don't like that it is so obvious that somebody on the development team looked at this and said, yeah, we need to signify that this part of the wall is interactable. And aside from having the little, like, indicator right here on the floor, this is what it also, you could just do this and this would be fine. Because Rebirth has a couple of these little interactable bits where it's like, hey, when you interact with this little whatever spot this is connected to, you're going to go into a movement section. So it's like the bits when you're shimmying through like a tight space, or you're going into the air ducts in the Shinra offices. And actually, as I'm looking at this as well, why do we need the yellow paint on this bit where I'm basically just holding, like, forward? Like, this is the only control that I'm holding here, is just forward, and slightly adjusting my camera. Hey, Mr. Claro. Welcome in. You just come in on us yapping about yellow paint. So why do you need, like, all of these little bits of yellow paint? Right? One bit of yellow paint down there to say, hey, that this is an interactable spot and this is where it starts. And maybe something up here, like a little bit, just a smidge right up here to designate that this is the last bit. Excessive amount of yellow paint. Oh yeah, excessive. So, thinking about it actually again, this might almost tell me that this is like a development or like a debug thing of saying to your fellow developers, hey, here is all of the interaction points where the character will jump to. And then maybe they just forgot to turn this off. However, we are playing the retail release of the game. So, I don't get it. Final Fantasy 13 also had a lot of these bits back in the day, of these little action segments or something like that, or whatever we want to call them necessarily, where you're jumping between just little bits and stuff like that to make the environmental traversal just a little bit more animated, I guess we could say, something like that, rather than just walking through a contained level experience like Final Fantasy X or something like that. Wow, Sephiroth, you're so cool. You're only using one arm. Damn, you're so cool. He's so cool. But yeah, so again, I want to make it very clear. And this is still my generalized stance every single time that we see this in any game ever. You don't necessarily need yellow paint. You can make it fit in with the rest of the world. Mirror's Edge is still probably the single greatest example of how to do color. And light sources and all that stuff. Because, guess what? All of your points of progress in forward movement through the level is bright red. That game does colors better than many, many other games. Now, that's also partly because that's the focus. It's the art style. The art style was built around that. The City of Glass has a very specific color palette. Every single level is very specific. So when you're in the sewers, it's dark, and you're doing all your traversal. However, the main color you're always looking for in terms of forward progress is bright red. And even in the game's final level, where the whole level is dark and very dark blues, which the game doesn't use, it does have dark blues here and there. However, the central color of it being, or of a level being dark blue, was the final level. To very much like sell that it is the final level because it stands out so much against the rest of the game's color palette. Because it's also like one of the only levels that's at night. If I'm remembering correctly. But developers, even if anybody at Square Enix or any other development studio ever hears this, I am not saying you don't do yellow paint. Have it blend in with the rest of the level. There's tons of ways to do it. You can have the camera pan to it. You can use a light source. I always prefer light sources, actually, because it feels much more natural. And you can also build the light source much more delicately around whatever you're wanting it to point to. Or just, I don't know, have Sephiroth just like start walking up here and just climbing the rocks. And then he doesn't move until you start to interact with it. And then he slowly climbs up and does his whole thing, and then you just follow him. Or just make this... How do I put it? Just have Cloud just auto do it when he steps up to the wall. You see like the little like arrow bits that Tifa's standing on right here? Just have that. And then you don't need the rest of this. Just hold it forward, and the game will just take care of it. I don't get it. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't get it.